10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6.
Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Fuel community. My name is Wack. Today is September 15th, and we've got another quick episode for you all. We're going to start here with the party. So, it was a party that didn't really last long as a party. Patchy says, party time, woohoo! Holesky. I totally forgot how to pronounce that now. It was Holesky, something like that. Anyway, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation now. I know, sorry Patches, I know that you told me how to pronounce it properly, but I forgot. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, there's a thread in the Rocket Pool Discord where a whole bunch of community members kind of got together and tried to be Genesis stakers for the new Ethereum testnet, which will replace Gurley by the end of this year. It's launching today, and the 1 year anniversary of the merge, and it was going to replace Gurley basically by the end of the year, which is going to be deprecated. So this chain was supposed to have its Genesis launch today, and then that was at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and patches through a 12-second party, and woohoo party, yay party, but then very quickly people started seeing that there's some issues, and there's being problems. Patches says could not submit attestation to Beacon node, and saying, well, that was fast. And then there was errors starting to come through from Pateris here, and non-fungible Yoakum says we weren't seeing any blocks, and yeah, things were not looking good right away. And then here in a screenshot of people saying, like, is anyone seeing any blocks? Lighthouse is stuck, thinking the merge hasn't happened. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on over here as well, where Lighthouse wasn't doing stuff that it was supposed to, and basically in this, here, like, no client is doing anything, and like it was just kind of all broken. And then we got some information from the ETH staker Discord here saying that the Genesis config file was faulty, and there's a mismatch between the execution layer block hash and what the consensus layer thinks it is, because it's set to 0x0 in the consensus layer Genesis state, and this is LOL. So yeah, basically the Genesis failed, and it was a disaster, and like it didn't work at all. So that mismatch basically, it says here, Rocknet says one issue appears to be that not all clients agree on the Genesis hash. Some have 0xFF and some don't. And then there's a meeting that people could jump into if you want to listen to what was going on, where client teams were kind of talking about it. And people are trying to do high-speed debugging, and there were two issues that were found really quickly. And then here, Rocknet shared some screenshots saying from Pari saying our Genesis SSZ generation tool works fine with Xdata, but we set the Xdata manually and overlooked the effect it has on the Genesis SXZ. Sorry for the mishap. And then Barnabas says, let's try to target for a relaunch. I think that would probably make a lot more sense, as there was some misfigs on Geth side too for Chapella. And then there was someone put, and then there's an address. How much is the fish as an extra data in the execution layer Holesky Genesis JSON and not in the consensus layer Genesis SXZ? Misconfiguration, network fails to launch. Also, some other fork parameters in releases are rumored to mismatch too. So there was some the How Much is the Fish is a hardcore Eurodance song by German group Scooter that was released in 1998, and I listened to the song, and it's better if you don't listen to the song. So the memes started coming through as well from Patches saying, what if you wanted Genesis, but God said, no, what is the fish? How much is the fish instead? So people, were kind of upset, like they were taking it in good spirits, I guess, but there was definitely, they're going to they're trying to avoid a full relaunch, it seems. However, it seems like if it might, that people might just get leaked out, like, through the inactivity leak, and because there's so many people who are going to be inactive, the leak is going to happen really fast. So yeah, here Besu have a parameter to adjust. Let's wait for client team to say something. ETH Docker can also run a network from its config GitHub. So if that's adjusted, that's away. And then patches said, I feel like the launch abort system has triggered, and the only reason to Dr. Genesis at this point is to confirm that it works with the adjustment. And Yorick says they're actually trying to avoid a full relaunch, and if this works, they might just call that a success. So there's a whole lot happening here in real time, and I'm like behind on this now. So yeah, the Holesky testnet launch failed, and there's a chance that it could try to be rescued, and if that happens, it should be happening over the next few hours. However, as an outsider, I think more likely it might lead to a relaunch maybe in a week's time. So yeah, and then there might be a new genesis.json file with a fix, but Yorick says hang loose, we might get that soon. So that was an interesting bit of drama in the Rocket Pool community today. People in trading were talking about it too, and I'll give you an update on that once I have one. Okay, next we had this post from Schifrin that went into the forum yesterday, and saying that the proposal to introduce a GMC member stipend. And then Schifrin says, I recommend the implementation of a nominal stipend to recognize GMC members' valuable contributions and to encourage sustained commitment to the committee's mission, with the stipend becoming effective starting from the next roster appointment. GMC members have never requested a stipend. This is my personal proposal. Despite their dedication driven by the passion for the Rocket Pool community, introducing incentives can help maintain their commitment. On average, GMC members dedicate 1 to 2 hours per week, with some highly active members contributing even more. I think I do like an hour a day. Unfortunately, at least 3 members have expressed burnout or a change in bandwidth over the last few months, highlighting the need for action. I operate on the assumption that members refrain from stepping down because there may not be suitable replacements, and their departures could potentially do more harm than good. The stipend proposal aims to address these issues by introducing burnout, increasing applications for the upcoming appointment cycle, and establishing a minimum activity requirement. It's important to recognize that member contributions will always vary. This stipend is intended to acknowledge and promote a baseline level of commitment. Should GMC members be rewarded a monthly stipend for their efforts? That's the little poll. And then here, so far we've had 7 votes. 4 people said no, this creates a political nightmare, and 3 people said other, please comment, with no one saying yes to giving them money. Val's point here was really interesting, saying, I've commented on this before and my beliefs are mostly unchanged. I think this is a political nightmare, so I put other. I think it's political mind, so he says no, but he says he put others so he can explain his reasoning. So he says, I think we need to address the political nightmare head on. I just want to note that prices, he's saying $500 a month for 1 or 2 hours work is about $62 to $125 an hour. $750 gets us $93 to $187 an hour, and these map onto 6-figure salaries, though the hours aren't there for that. The high end of this 1 hour a week at $750 a month maps out to over $250,000 a year, which is a whole lot of money to be paying for GMC work. I don't want to pay that. And then Val says the bar must be dramatically higher than it has been. It's completely unacceptable for a paid position to require nagging to sign something. Communication must also improve a lot. I'm going to be traveling, so I won't be able to sign at our usual time the 3rd week of November. For some context, we are paying the dev team $163,000 over 3 periods at current RPL prices, both PDAO expense and ODAO seats, though it's worth noting they had ICO funds too, so not entirely of their funding. And he says, if we're paying at 14% as much to the GMC as to the dev team, that's $500 per member plus admin. My expectations are significant. I take a real issue with paying the same for 1 hour a week as significantly more than 2 hours per week. If someone is creating 4 times the value, we should pay them a hell of a lot more. yeah, maybe not 4 times, but still. Also, I'll note that I do think output value is a better target than input hours, but I understand that's super hard to measure. And then Val goes on to say people who put in work before stipend should be rewarded more because pure volunteering without guarantee is good, and less insofar as they did less. And Val says we should pay for all similar positions. Here, that would mean IMC and PDAO treasurer. And I agree with almost all of what Val is saying here. It makes a lot of sense. Dr. Doofus raised an interesting point. I think this is linked to Schifrin's original idea. He's saying, I definitely think major PDAO committee members should get compensation, GMC and IMC for sure, and treasurer. As Val says, maybe $500 a month is too high, maybe more in the $250 to $300 range. I think eventually it's going to be hard to find enough people to volunteer. That's the point that I agree with here, especially when there's a decent amount of RPL in the treasury. That's besides the point. So one of the things as a GMC member is, we find that it's hard to get people to work, and that's been a constant issue, and that's not just from community members, but that's from members of the GMC as well. I'm not trying to point out names, I'm not trying to criticize people, but the levels of activity between members has been drastic, in all honesty, and we need to do something to fix that, and maybe Schifrin's idea is kind of in the right place here, but I think it needs a lot more work to refine. And I really like Val's comments as well. Maybe Schifrin and Val can work together on coming up with something for not just the GMC, but also the IMC and the PDAO treasurer as well. Okay, so moving on from that now, we have here an update from the Odd Core Devs. They had their most recent meeting yesterday, and on that they are putting a few additions to the next update, which is Cancun or Deneb. They're calling it Dencun. So here Tembaiko says a few additions to Dencun. EIP 7514, that's the max epoch churn limit, and that's agreed to include and set the limit to 8 only on the deposit queue. And then there's other stuff as well, but that's the one that's most relevant to Rocket Pool. So what does this mean? It means that only 8 validators will be able to come online every epoch instead of the current, I think 12 or 13 is. And because of that, it will slow down growth of the validator set. That's of course deliberate because the issues that were had with finality a few months ago were partly because of a validator set that was too large, and I think this is just a stopgap measure until a more permanent solution is found, and whether that permanent solution is to be increasing the max effective amount of stake up to 2,048 ETH per validator. I think that might be the way to go, but that's something that I support here. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this impacts the growth of a protocol like Rocket Pool. But I think it's going to be interesting. So they're saying that this will be in the next DevNet, which is number 9. And they'll have tested by the All Core Devs call next week, and then a launch date for the DevNet then. So let's get that information and see what happens next. Okay, next we got this post by Gauntlet tweet, and they are now they've got a big allocation of ARB tokens that they will be using to provide liquidity incentives on certain pairs. So here, Gauntlet said the first round of Uniswap Arbitrum liquidity mining incentives will go live today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So this is yesterday. And it says the liquidity providers on Uniswap and supported third-party protocols will earn ARB rewards based on their accrued trading fees. Check the APYs and claim your rewards anytime using, and then there's the website. So here are some of the pools that will be getting rewards through Gauntlet. I think that's USDC, USDT, that'll get a 30,000 ARB allocation. And then there's wrapped ETH, which is Lido's staked ETH, a wrapped version of that WST ETH, and WETH will get 27,000 tokens. Magic and WETH will get 17,000 tokens. BTCB and ETH will get 9,000. WETH and rETH will get 9,000, and another token RBPX, I don't know what that is, and WETH will get 8,000. So I made a comment that it's a shame that Lido's wrapped ST ETH is getting so much of incentives here. And then Valdov kind of pointed out to me that, like, even though, you know, Lido's 10 times bigger than Rocket Pool, you know, we're getting 33% of their allocation. So that's an outsized allocation based on market caps and, like, you know, market share. However, you know, with this whole idea of kind of reducing Lido's dominance, kind of giving Lido less incentives would be a way of reducing their dominance as well. So I really wish that more protocols kind of took that on board. I'm not sure about the mechanics of it in this situation, and if I get more information, I'll share that with you all, of course. But here, Gauntlet said the trading pairs chosen are actively traded in Arbitrum, yet have a relatively low market share on Uniswap. To capture the growth opportunity, we'll incentivize these polls for 4 weeks, with a review after 2 weeks if needed. Data from this first round will help refine models for later rounds of 8-month incentive campaign on Arbitrum. This campaign will be much longer than our recent program on ETH mainnet, as we plan to apply the insights from the program to a richer opportunity set. We thank the Uniswap DAO, Angel Protocol, and Gamma Strategies for their partnering with us to deploy this campaign. In the coming weeks, we'll post regular updates on the ongoing incentive progress and the planned next steps for the upcoming rounds. So this is a nice idea, you know, to get liquidity, and I think there'll be a whole lot of these kind of things going on layer 2s in the coming days and weeks, and I'll definitely keep you up to date with all of them that involve Rocket Pool, rETH most likely, and RPL where it is as well. Okay, next we have this post from Daniel W, saying, I'm Daniel from Frontier Research, an Aussie and Flashbot's employee, where I collaborated with a few folks here on MEV boost adoption and the ETH2 working group early on. Frontier is a research firm focused on MEV and the transition supply network, and seeking to bridge the gap between fundamental research and commercial products. Our latest adventure is an MEV boost relay, which we have launched to increase diversification of the relay set, and in particular improve latency for validators and node operators in the APAC region. I guess that's the Australia region. I know Holesky is launching soon, everyone's focused on that, but we've been testing for several weeks on Gurley, and we'll continue our pre-mainnet launch there. If you have any validators on Gurley, we would really appreciate you being included in your relay pool, and then there's information to adding them. Let me know if you have any questions. So one of these issues, you know, that is, people have been talking about Ethereum recently is something called relay centralization, where the whole, like, Ethereum batch just goes through a handful of relays. So Daniel here wants to add more relays as part of Frontier research, and of course they're asking for people in the Rocket Pool community to add their relay to their validators on Gurley. If you are running any validators on Gurley, you can add that by using the information that was shared here. So yeah, if you're interested in doing that, add them up. And finally, we're going to end today's episode with some news that came out yesterday. It was that, you know, the GMC was paying members of the Rocket Pool community who had volunteered at ETH Denver. One of those people was the RPL-Benefactor, who made a post yesterday saying, I got RPL from the GMC, thank you, we'll give it to you all in the next round. So I guess the Benefactor is basically saying that, you know, they don't want to keep the RPL for themselves, or himself, I guess, and that he'll be giving it to community members when someone donates the next batch of RPL to be distributed across the community. And I think so far there have been 3 rounds or 2 rounds of donations from the Benefactor. I've forgotten. I think it's 3 rounds of donations. So I guess, you know, the Benefactor's been waiting for some of the whales to give him some RPL to distribute to the community. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. Thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. And I will see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.